Welcome into the Wolf Financial live stream. My name is Gav. I'm the CEO at Wolf and your host for today. Joining me from the Tradr ETFs team is Matt. Welcome onto the show. This is a perfect timing to have this conversation. The market is as volatile as it gets, and earnings are coming up, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed again. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's good seeing you. We were on last week and much different scenario, kind of macro wise, but here we are, and always something fun to talk about.
Indeed, it always is. And so today for the audience, we're going to be talking about these earnings coming up and some of the major catalysts and pieces that we're watching. And then we're going to talk about some of the corresponding double leveraged ETFs that people can use to get exposure to these events, both on the upside and the downside, of course, without having to pay attention to some of these Greeks and pieces that take up mind space on the option chain. As we get going here, going to do some screen sharing as well, show people what we're looking at. Investors, please carefully consider each fund's investment objectives, risk, charges, and expenses prior to investing. The fund's prospectus and the summary prospectus contain this and other information about Tradr ETFs, and it's right on their website. You can find the fund's prospectus and summary prospectus. It is Tradr ETFs.com, and those should be read carefully prior to investing. And a big thank you as well to NASDAQ for helping to set up our shows. Thank you to them, and always love collaborating with yourself at Tradr ETFs and NASDAQ on these. So with that being said, let's get a little bit deeper into this. Earnings, we already got through. Netflix, that was a big one. Now we've got a slew of them coming up. Tesla this week. I know that for you guys, you have some popular ETFs right around Tesla, specifically to the downside as well. So people, preying on the downfall there. And then we've got a bunch more stuff coming up. So walk me through what you're watching here in the upcoming 1 to 2 weeks and the corresponding tickers that you think are going to see a lot of activity.
Yeah. So, for us, we manage exclusively leverage and inverse ETFs, which allow investors of all types to really express a high conviction view from the long side or short side. And as you kind of mentioned, it's all done without using options or having to borrow on margin, right? We kind of take care of the leverage piece on our side, and it's a daily leverage target. So meaning, let's just take our 2x short Tesla ETF, which is one we'll talk about here. That gives you negative 200% daily exposure to the price of Tesla. And it's the closing price, right? It's not the intraday price, even though the market makers kind of keep it in line. Our goal as a manager, an ETF manager, is to get that minus 2x leverage at the end of the day. So that's what we are benchmarked against. It's not the intraday. We have no control over where the quotes are going. That's again all the market makers who are doing that. But so for this week, yeah, I mean, obviously Tesla is on the 22nd a big name. I'd say it's been less relevant for us just because Tesla has, when relevant, just it hasn't traded as much. The interest in TSLQ as a short has waned a little bit because Tesla has gone from a price of 500 in late December, right, hit around 350, something like that, mid-April. Seen a pretty aggressive bounce here. Interesting kind of technical picture now that I'm looking at it, kind of hovering near that 200-day, flirting with the 50-day moving average. But we've seen volumes, drop off considerably as Tesla has gone down in price. And that's generally the same kind of picture, Gav, as most of our ETFs. When stocks go up, we see a lot of interest in the short ETFs. And when stocks kind of tend to go down, maybe not necessarily in a trending fashion, we see, a lot of dip buyers. So Tesla definitely kind of forefront here on the 22nd for us.
What about this move today that we saw on ASTS? Huge move kind of coming off of the news with Blue Origin and ASTS, today at one point was down 15%, is now down around 8%, I believe, at the moment. So I know this one is one that was really popular that a lot of people have been playing around and trading with. At one point, ASTX was down 30% this morning, now down 16%. Did you see people playing a lot of activity today this morning?
Yeah, I'll tell you just kind of from real time look here into what's going on. The stock, the ETF ASTX, as you mentioned, it's 2 times long ASTS. seeing, just over 3x ADV already, right? It's only, 12:30 Eastern, thereabouts. And again, aggressive dip buyers. We've seen a ton of inflows already, in those create orders that
Yeah.
kind of come in throughout the day. We don't usually get them until kind of like around 2 o'clock.
7.5 million shares traded today or something like that.
Yeah, 7.5 million shares. And, from a dollar perspective, it's $220 million. So the
Yeah.
entire fund, which is
Yeah.
$220 million of AUM, has turned over already today. So a really aggressive dip buying this morning. I have no idea what it's like to kind of put a satellite into a $23 million satellite into a different orbit, or what that really means, other than
Yeah.
it's not what you really wanted as a company. But yeah, it's just, I think longer term, the story seems, still pretty intact. There just might be a delay to some
I
plans there, but
I think that this is one of the perfect examples of how people are utilizing the 2x leverage ETFs, and you're seeing it based on the volume here. You had a big move down, and I looked at it last night. And I was like 16% gap down. Said I think this is getting over exaggerated because people are scared of other things, right? That don't apply, like straight up for moves or whatever. That don't really apply to ASTS, and so they overreacted. Exactly like you said. Hey, it sounds like this mission was a mess up, but how does this exactly really affect the long-term viability? I don't think it does. And so a lot of people are going into dip buy. And so people were able to dip buy on ASTS itself, right? People can go look at that. The average volume's 15.8 million shares, and it did 25.9 million shares today. But really, people that are looking for just that day trade, right? Because they might just be holding their ASTS position. Maybe they don't want to add to that ASTS position, right? They're just holding it there. Maybe they want to day trade though. You come in, you look at, even at market open, right? And it was doing even worse in pre-market. But even at market open, this was down, trading at $27. Somebody could have bought that, flipped it. It's at 30, 31 now, right? Maybe they're holding it for just a day or so here because of that daily resetting leverage. This seems to be like what these things were built for.
They're built for these times of volatility. Gaps up, down. Again, if you have that kind of contra view, if you will, this is ASTS it's a great one. I don't want it to happen to the company, have a kind of a mishap like this, but check out the chart, if you chart, I can't remember if you can bring things up, but it bounced off 200 like crisply. Like that is an absolute textbook bounce off the 200-day moving average this morning. Look at that.
There.
That is just what a setup there if you're kind of a chartist, right? And so instead, like you said, of buying ASTS, the stock, if you're just, kind of holding it for a day or two, or not even just intraday trading, ASTX is a really interesting way to kind of look at a bull position.
Yeah, really cool right there. And then, just to show people ASTX, the other one that we're talking about, you can see more volatile, right? You're going to get that 2x leverage movement inside of here. And you can see today, if I pull down on, it's like a 5-minute, you had that big gap down, right? And then towards the open here, right at around 9:30, I think you pulled back down one more time. And then at 9:30, that's where it started popping up here. And so for people that played maybe off of VWAP, or once it got back up here, still some opportunities to the upside there. Let's talk about some of these other ones as well that people are watching. I'm curious if you had any thoughts here, updated on SanDisk, which is kind of moved around here a little bit for a few days without having like a crazy move, but still looks like it wants to continue to push up to new highs from everything that I'm seeing. New all-time highs coming on this one just a few trading days ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not like the world's best chartist, but it seems like some significant resistance kind of around that 965, 970 level on SanDisk. So the trading volumes have mellowed out in SNXX. That's our 2x long daily SanDisk ETF. So maybe, we have some folks kind of waiting for a confirmation here to break that resistance. And that's going to be a really interesting one. That's reporting. Let's see what SanDisk earnings are coming out.
It's going to be right here. Looks like it's in.
I see an estimate on my side for the 30th.
Yep, 30th.
Probably be around there. I'm looking at my Bloomberg here. So that's going to be just, that's a big one next week, especially for us. It is our our largest ETF right now at just under $1.4 billion of assets. So obviously we're watching that one pretty keenly here, but it seems like the setup is it wants to kind of move higher, right? But seeing a bunch of resistance form there. So that's something I think that is going to be highly watched next week.
Yeah, I agree. Let's pull over to the website for a second here. So, we talked about a couple of these already that people can see on screen: SNXX, TSLQ, ASTX. LITX is the one other that's listed here as the most active. And this one's probably, I would guess, been a strong runner as well. I looked at the light chart a few days ago, seemed to be pretty run up to the upside, one might say.
Yeah, Lumentum has been a really great story. It got it included in the S&P 500 recently. A really nice nod to that. I think this is a type of stock that people it's the guts, it's the optics in a lot of these AI data center build outs. It's not anything you can kind of see. It's not a brand that people know. Earnings is coming up on May 5th for this one. I think it's going to be, expectations are probably pretty high given the fact that the demand is massive for their products. But again, you bring up the light chart, Gav, and, I'm seeing some decent resistance there, kind of around that, right around here, right? It's going to may have a little trouble. Maybe earnings are going to be the event that busted out next week.
Yeah,
right?
just some insane moves. I mean, 1,600% in a year. You're gonna have some volatility off of that, right? Do you guys also run the a 2x short product on this as well for people?
It is. It's been filed and currently in registration review. All I should say is, if you haven't signed up for our mailing list to kind of be kept abreast of new products, do that. Go to the website, and we kind of send out new product announcements. But just watch our website closely on this one.
Do you think that the AUM on BEX could really see a spike here as well? That's one that I was watching because, even today, really strong performer, up 9.5% on BEX, and Bloom Energy got a ton of people looking at it recently. This one's sitting at like 50, 60 million AUM. I could see it being one that people latch onto.
Yeah, again, earnings coming up here for Bloom on the 28th, right? Massive year to date. Bloom's up 151%, up 46% in the past month. Solid run. It seems like interest has kind of come back in a lot of these, we'll call them AI power plays, right? These GE Vernova, some of the new scale power, Oklo type names have been on a nice run. GE Vernova, by the way, does report on the 22nd. So that's another name. I don't say household, but it's something for us that we have a GEVX is the ticker for our 2X GEV. And that's always been a big trader on earnings day, 4 to 6 times ADV when GEV reports. So that's a good one. But yeah, some big moves here. I mean, GEV up 52% year to date, and up 17% over the last month. So some really solid moves there as well. I mean, what hasn't been up over the past month, right? But that's kind of an outsized gain, right?
There's been more than the past month for GEVX. I mean, this one's just been running really since the start of the year.
Yeah, GEV, we got to remember that a lot of the, the nature of leverage ETFs when things trend, right? We've seen up until today, what was it, 13 straight days of gains and the Qs. When you see those trends, like it's almost like the longer term performance of the leverage ETFs are supercharged. Could work against you too. If you see 13 straight down days, right, you're going to probably get, a lot, it's going to be bigger than 2x to the downside. So again, that just kind of really shows why you really have to be careful, trade these names with a shorter leash than, you would with a stock.
It's crazy how we had such perfect timing with that show going into, I mean, today, if we hit a 14th straight day on QQQ, it would have been tied, I believe, for the longest run of positive days in QQQ's history. There's still 3 hours for it to potentially do that. But we did our first show, just kind of. I like when there's good timing, but we did our show on the 7th. Was when we were talking about MQQQ, I believe, was back on the 7th. And so for anyone that was watching along on these shows, listen, hey, maybe some prescient timing on that one. Look at the look at the rocket ship since then. I think we were chatting about it right around here on the 7th pretty much. And so that's up 17%. And it's something interesting here. Maybe you can explain this for people because this is like a good explanation of hey, the 2x leverage doesn't always move perfectly with the underlying, even on non-daily resets here, because QQQ, which people can look at, is obviously made all-time highs, right past that previous spike. MQQQ, not there just yet. Previous all-time highs for that one, right around $200. If you want to just kind of run through a little explanation as to how these ETFs work.
Yeah, so we were the first company to launch what's called calendar reset products in an ETF wrapper. And what we were trying to do is to give investors who have a little bit longer of a time horizon, other than a couple of days, the opportunity to access leverage in a way that they don't have to worry about that daily reset, right? Because again, the goal of 99% of leverage ETFs is to give you a leverage ratio just for that one day. But our work a few years ago, we kind of looked at all these, larger leverage ETFs out there and found that investors are holding them definitely for much longer than a day. It kind of ended up anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks was the average hold period. So, the ETF itself, that leverage ETF, it's not going to give you 2x performance for those 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
So what we wanted to do is come out with something that allowed investors to kind of maybe breathe a little easier within that month. I mean, just to use MQQQ, for instance. So we reset that leverage every month. At the end of every month, it goes back to 2x long. So It kind of, it floats and tracks the movement within. But I sort of like to think about it as, with that longer reset, like you're buying weakness. So let's say the Qs was down over the month, right? And then we had to reset leverage kind of back to 2x. So we're buying more Qs. So you're buying weakness and you're selling strength. So for those folks who kind of have that type of outlook on investing, over the longer term, that's what this longer reset leverage strategy does. And we have a monthly reset on the Qs, a 2x quarterly reset on the Qs, 2x quarterly reset on SPY, and then we have a 1x short on the Qs monthly. So it gives you exactly that, so you're not, point to point, you're not holding it through a very volatile. That's SMQ, that ticker there over on the right. So we just came out with that one in December, and that's definitely a better hedging tool. When you're kind of thinking longer term. A competitor product there might be PSQ, for instance, which is that daily reset 1x, not giving you, multiples of leverage, just that 1x leverage. But you have a longer position. I think that the stock market is in for, a rough go here the next month because of X, Y, or Z reason. And you kind of want to just feel a little bit better about not wearing that daily volatility drag. That's when those calendar resets really shine.
Great explanation there. And, also it can work in people's favor. I think people should look at this and be able to see that QQQ from those dates that I talked about there was up 7-8%. Meanwhile, the 2x leverage ETF's up like 17%. So you can see it was a little bit more than double as well in that time frame, working in people's favor there.
Again, because that trend, right? That's that trending. It's the day resetting every single day a little bit higher. Yeah.
Exactly. Just looking through earnings for a second here as to some of the rest of them that are coming up. We've mentioned Tesla here and a couple others. The week after that, you're going to have a variety more. Do any of these stand out to you as you see them as earnings specific one that you would really be focused on with your ETFs?
Yeah, let's see. We tend to have not a ton of mega cap names. Because the volatility just isn't there that people are looking for, kind of to swing trade. necessarily. On the 27th, though, after the close, Celestica is reporting, and we have a 2x long Celestica ETF. CLSX is that one. Really, I mean, it's, Celestica has been around for decades as an electronic manufacturing services company. And it's kind of gotten this new, life breathed into it from, the AI stack, and a lot of the components are getting put in there. And, the stock has been just another great performer, up 34% year to date, past month up 46%. So we launched that 2x CLS back in the fall. It took a little while to get going, but I think, these types of runs, people are realizing the usefulness of the, I think, no, you're on, that's our Clean Spark. That's check out. Sorry. Did I say, you know what? I apologize. It's not CSEX. Sorry. That's our CLS. There you go. Clean Spark, not a mega cap company. So that's our Celestica ETF right there. So it's been trading more. ADV in that one has been kind of going up past couple months, again, as the stock is concurrently done really well. And it's, it's a name, again, the stock's been around for a while, but it's not something that it fits your typical leverage ETF profile necessarily. Let's see. Yeah, 20 of 24 million-ish in it. Trades average daily volume 450,000 shares a day, a little close to $3 million a day, and dollar volume. But that's one to keep a look out for. And then IBM, we just launched our 2x long IBM ETF past couple weeks. That one, again, less volatility, underlying stock. IBM, obviously blue chip. It trades a ton. Also reporting on the 22nd. So this will be the first earnings season where we've had, IBX, that's our 2x IBM ETF out. And, we've seen some big swings in that stock past several months. So we'll see what the uptake of the ETF is. Then week after, Amazon, of course. We don't have a long Amazon ETF, but we have a 2x short, the first and only 2x short Amazon. AMZO is that ticker. So again, if you're kind of more positioning on, for a bear move there, that's one to look for.
That's the only 2x short?
Amazon, it is, yeah. ETF? Yeah, surprisingly, we were a little, there's a 1x short, but we are the only 2x short Amazon ETF. Yep.
Very interesting. Do you think that you'll ever create ETFs that aren't, leverage focused, or is that's the specialty?
Yeah, that's our niche. That's our lane. I don't want to say we would never. Our advisory company, AXS Investments, we have a few strategic ETFs there that we were, sort of legacy, but it's at Tradr. It's not our focus. Yeah. It's not our kind of our cohort. Our cohort is, the folks who are tuning into this live stream, right? That's kind of who we really feel like we can speak to and build products for better than coming up with another, beta ETF to try to beat the S&P 500 or some, growth slice or whatever. I think, we've really done well sticking to what we think we can do, in the best fashion. So that's where we're kind of probably going to stay in our lane.
What advice would you give somebody who's like never traded a 2x leverage ETF before, but has just had bad luck with options, wants to try these out? How should they get started?
Yeah, I'd say just, kind of have a tight leash, first of all, in your mind, in terms of maybe just kind of practice day trading them, if you will, right? Look at them to see how they move during the day, and make sure that you have pretty well-defined entry and exit points, because they can start moving on you very quick. Speaking from experience before we started kind of launching any of these products, everyone has an expectation of, I look at the leverage multiple and that's what I should be getting. But again, it's that day return. That's all the fund is set out to do. So again, I would say, number one, have very clear entry and exit points of the ETF itself, based on the underlying asset. So that's one. Two, I would say don't be afraid of some of the short leverage ETFs, right? They can be very useful during periods of volatility, or again, from a chart perspective, if you're not really want to buy some puts or go for some bearish strategy,
Yeah.
check out some of the kind of the short leverage ETFs. Those things tend to go up more often than not. That's the way it seems anyway, the past 17 years or whatever, right, since the global financial crisis. But those could be really useful tools too. And again, just kind of, I guess the third thing would be just, know what you own, know this, make sure you know the stock, make sure you are using and I guess, limit order when you're trading at all times. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Most single stock ETFs tend to be have a volatile underlying stock, right? It's, you don't get too many 2x IBMs, although, again, we do have that. A lot of these names like ASTS are, have pretty wild intraday moves. And that can just get exacerbated over a couple of days. So make sure you're using limit orders to get in and out. In general, I'd say, I feel really good about where our spreads are. The market making community is using that, but that would be probably the fourth thing, is just don't put a market order in, because some of these thinner single stock ETFs, you may kind of rip the book up or down 25 cents, 70 cents, and that's not, that's ultimately going to eat into your return. So I want you to have the best experience possible, of course, with our products.
Really good points, especially the limit market order. I do not think that is one that anybody that's new to trading is super focused on, but it's a great one that can save them a lot of money, especially like you're saying with some of these much more thinly traded products. I'm curious, one thing that I think we might have talked about on one of our streams before, but SpaceX is looking to IPO soon. Are you guys looking to be all over that?
I guess all I can say is we've filed for a long and short SpaceX ETF. It's public, and a bunch of other issuers have, but currently in the registration review period. So you can check out the SEC Edgar website there and kind of see what that looks like. But we're not alone in that venture. But yeah, will be really an exciting time when SpaceX IPOs, of course.
Yeah, I'd love to have options like these right off the bat. It'd be super cool to have 2x leverage ETFs, both upside and downside, existing right when SpaceX goes positive. A lot of times, companies have been around for a while before these 2x leverage ETFs begin on them. But I think this would be a cool one to have from the start. And retail, I'm sure, is going to be all over and interested in trading with it.
Yeah, I think this will probably be the first instance where that's the case, right?
Yeah.
That's my guess. We haven't really seen an ETF launch on the same day as an IPO before, to the best of my knowledge. So this is going to be a truly a groundbreaking event.
I agree. We covered a good amount here. I really like those educational tips for people towards the end. If anybody needs to find more information on this, it's tradretfs.com. That's where you can find all the different funds laid out. There's a sizable amount of funds, 40 plus at this point, right? 50 plus?
Closer to 60.
60.
Yeah. Yep.
40 plus is still correct.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so there's a bunch to find on there, a lot of different educational pieces as well. There's a whole Learn tab that I encourage people to go check out that explains a lot of the basis of these leverage ETFs and what goes into them. Do you have any final comments for us on this chat, Matt?
No, appreciate, as always, kind of being on with you, and then the chance to talk a little bit about the platform. And again, hopefully, again, a little bit of education. It is important that everyone understands what they're trading. Leverage ETFs, options, stocks, right? So we're all always learning. And if you do have questions, you can kind of hit us up on the website and contact us. And usually doesn't take too long to kind of get back to you.
Yeah, the website's a good spot. Social media as well. People can check out all that's as well linked into the website itself. But that's a great place to start it out. I think that these leverage ETFs are just becoming more and more popular. You guys have 4 billion AUM, right? Clearly there's money that cares about this and is coming into it. I think we saw great trading cases, such as the ones which you pointed out with ASTS today, with what happened there with the dip, and then looking at, MQQQ on times like this where the Qs are ripping, right? A shorter term trade potentially for people, but a great area to be able to capitalize. So please do your due diligence, make sure that you understand, like Matt pointed out, there's risks, right? With limits versus market orders, making sure that you're just being smart with the trading and with the opportunities. If you have questions, feel free to submit them to us. That's going to do it for this conversation, but we will be back on soon with more content. Stocks on Spaces will be going live here in a couple hours. So I encourage everybody to tune in. Thank you for watching with us. Matt, thank you so much for coming on again today.
Thanks for having me yet again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, go check out the Wolf Financial newsletter. Did you know that we make a ton of content? We host 60+ hours of Twitter Spaces and live streams every single week. We're posting on the timeline over and over and over. We put up YouTube videos, and one of our prime gems is our newsletter. And it's free into your inbox multiple times a week. We mix it up. We give stock picks, market headlines, research, info. It's a great way for you to stay in touch with the stock market and your portfolio without having to spend 8 hours a day staring at your brokerage screen. So again, link is below. It is free to grab, and you're going to love the content in it.